next guest is CNN's chief White House correspondent. She anchors The Source weeknights at 9 on CNN. Please welcome back to the show our friend Kaitlan Collins, everybody. Kaitlan, how are you?
So I want you to ask me every question that you asked Pete Davidson.
You just with the same questions? So you got an aquarium.
I don't have it. If I had an aquarium, everything would die within like 2 days because I would just never be home.
Yeah. It's really amazing. I mean, we didn't talk enough about how Pete's keeping those fish alive. Although basically...
Okay, but no. Okay, why did there were no fish in that aquarium?
Yeah.
Like, did anyone else notice that? Or
You're
was that
really...
just me?
This is why you're the good CNN reporter. Literally, I'm holding up being like, look, you're doing good, Pete. You're right, there was not a single fish in that photo.
Nothing.
I can't believe he's paying a guy just to clean an empty tank.
I respect it.
This is a disaster. I respect it too. You know what? Just because there's no fish doesn't mean you want murky water.
Yeah, exactly. 100, yeah, to each their own, I guess.
Each their own. So you're doing this every day. You're in D.C.
Yes.
The pace of the Trump administration seems to be moving pretty quickly. How are you holding up?
It is insane. And I think everyone is kind of like readjusting and re-remembering what it was like 4 years ago, 4 years ago. I remember when Biden first took office in January, the New York Times wrote the story about how quiet the weekends were because for reporters, every weekend had just been like it was like a 7-day work week. And now we're back to that basically where it's just essentially nonstop every day. You kind of wake up like not knowing what you're gonna be doing, what the schedule is. I was walking to get breakfast one day this week. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a nice little breakfast before I go to work. And halfway there, they were like, Trump's doing a press conference in an hour. And I physically ran back home so I could change and get ready.
I feel like that's how we all live now, is we would not be surprised to see someone we know from CNN running.
And I don't run. So if you see me running, like, fire up your Twitter because something's about to happen.
Yeah.
And it's probably not great.
So it does seem like also their philosophy is to flood the zone. And so sometimes I imagine for you, like something happens on Saturday and you think, oh, well, this will be our Monday story.
No.
And then, that goes away by the time, Sunday morning rolls around. Do you think that they can continue to flood the zone, or is this just the benefit of being in the early days of the administration?
I think they definitely want to keep it up for as long as possible because every day, they're touting, oh, we've signed this many executive orders, or we've done this today, or this many executive actions. But it is changing in terms of, there's a limit of how much you can do on your own at your desk with your pen as president. And the other day, this was evidence to me because Trump was signing all these executive orders, and then he signed this huge sheet of paper. And I texted a source, and I was like, wait, what is he signing? Why is the executive order, like, 40 feet wide? And it was a proclamation. It's basically a formalization of Mark Burnett, who from The Apprentice, who was going to the UK. But it wasn't actually something that, typically has to be signed in front of the cameras in the Oval Office, but it was just,
Right? He likes to sign stuff.
Signing stuff.
He likes to sign stuff on camera. And you know what? I think we should all support it.
Yeah. You should start that. You should start doing that. Sign your own executive orders.
I should just start every show by signing something, but not telling people what it is. I'm like, this is my secret, and then I'll put it away.
Aquariums must have fish.
Aquariums must. If you're a guest on this show, bring a picture with fish in the aquarium.
Done.
Was the press conference you ran to the joint press conference with Netanyahu?
That was a separate one that happened on Tuesday night. I don't know. I can't even remember what day it is.
We used a clip of you. You asked him a question. And there's a different vibe to a Trump press conference.
Such a different vibe. And I haven't been to a White House press conference in a while. I was here for 2 years, and I've just returned back to being the chief White House correspondent. And typically, when a world leader is there, it's called a 2 and 2. And it's 2 reporters on the American side get a question, and 2 reporters on whatever foreign press is visiting, this time the Israeli side. But then after Trump and Netanyahu gave their statements, I noticed Trump wasn't looking at like a list of reporters to choose from. He was kind of just picking from the audience. And it was like blood in the water. Like everyone realized that he could call on anyone. And there were 75 reporters in that room. And
which is a lot, right?
It was the crowds, like everyone was squeezed against the walls. There was nowhere for anyone to stand. It was like total mayhem. But you could see everyone realize this is a freewheeling kind of press conference. It's not just going to be 2 questions and then they're out. And so everyone was standing up, trying to get a question, and it just, kind of...
Do you feel like even in a case like that, Netanyahu's realizing this is a whole new rodeo?
Well, I think world leaders are always trying to adjust to being with Trump. I mean, this was famous during his first term where Boris Johnson and Justin Trudeau were seen on camera at a summit kind of making fun of it because they'll do these, meetings with the world leaders. Reporters normally come in for 30 seconds and then leave. But Trump would speak for like an hour in front of the world leader who's just sitting there while he's answering questions on whatever. And you can always see the world leaders kind of their faces.
Yeah.
And I was watching Netanyahu the other night when Trump was talking about the U.S. taking over Gaza, which stunned a lot of people in the room. I mean, reporters, you start to hear like the clicks on the keyboard, like going wild. But I was watching Netanyahu looking at all the advisors, the faces, like they're in the front row, just kind of, with this bewildered expression on his face.
Because that maybe hadn't been a conversation that had previously happened with the two of them.
I don't know if he realized how much Trump was going to lean into it.
Yeah, you asked about, you had a good question, which is who will live in Gaza after, America takes it over and owns it, to use his words. And he said, world people.
And then he called it the Riviera of the Middle East.
He called it and he said people are going to think I'm a wise guy, but it's going to be the Riviera of the Middle East.
I mean, Trump, this has always been the case with him. The 8 years that I've covered him, he views foreign policy with a real estate lens there as well. I mean, his own advisors will acknowledge this. And, he did it about North Korea. They talked about oceanfront property there and if the Hermit Kingdom changed its ways and, let people use internet. And that was how he viewed Gaza, which, I mean, it's safe to say. I talked to a bunch of Israeli officials that night and Republican sources of mine throughout the day. They do not see it that way, it's safe to say, but I mean, he's the president. So.
He is the president. Do you feel like, because I feel like in the first administration we heard about, how he's a frustrating person, even for his loyal staff, because they don't really know what he's going to say. Do you feel like his staff is caught off guard when he goes out and says we're going to, turn, Gaza into, a beautiful resort?
I think they get more used to it now, but it's always fascinating to watch and to see because then they have to go out and talk about it the next day. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was asked about it the next day. And that's why I followed up with Trump because this is a habit of sometimes his aides. They walk back or soften his statements. And that's why, I asked him, who is going to be living there? What are you going to do with the Palestinians, the millions of Palestinians who do live there? Because it's really important to see what he has to say about something. Because, I mean, he is truly the president who only speaks for himself.
As we talked about it earlier in the show, right? It seems like Elon Musk is doing his best to dismantle the federal government. What do you think? Is there any way to even guess what their long-term plan is for the federal government once they take it apart to the degree which they seem to want to?
I think the question is everything that they're tearing down or trying to reduce the federal workforce, what do they put there instead? With USAID, Trump's talking about taking over Gaza. Well, if they're eliminating USAID and wiping it out, that is humanitarian assistance that goes to people like that. And so I think that's a question. It's fascinating to watch, though, how we're seeing this play out because Trump really faces no resistance or obstacles to carrying out his will. Obviously not from Republicans and certainly not from the Washington he knows Washington and how it works now. The judiciary has really been the only thing that's kind of stood in his way with the federal workforce. And so we'll see what that looks like and what happens. I mean, they offered everyone at the CIA a buyout style offer, which obviously is difficult to do with the CIA.
Yeah. So it does seem like you don't replace CIA people right away.
But every day it's something new. It's a different federal agency. And, the day of the inauguration, after Trump is inaugurated and sworn in, he goes to this lunch with Republicans. We went straight to the White House, and we had been there for, Trump had been in office for an hour, and Elon Musk was there. We saw him on the White House campus. And so his proximity is real, and, he is there, and he is showing up everywhere and going to everything.
Trump seems fine with it. How do you feel like the Trump staffers are with Elon's proximity to the president?
I think they are less enamored by it. Yeah. And I mean, Trump obviously is a huge fan of his and publicly praises him. I think they feel like it's two planets kind of orbiting around each other because typically in both of those universes, it's one person who's the disruptor and that the kind of the whole staff is operating around. With Elon Musk in the picture, it's Elon Musk and Donald Trump who are kind of doing that. And I've heard from officials who say, we don't fully know what Elon Musk is doing or, he's not reporting back to us. And so they're kind of learning about it sometimes in real time with the rest of us.
That seems healthy. I feel like that's the right way. If you like are running the federal government, you want to kind of find out from like news alerts.
I don't know. Do you have a Tesla?
Yeah, no. Do you, I think the first administration was sort of famously leaky, which is probably pretty helpful for journalists. Do you feel like they've locked it up at all?
You're pro-leaks.
You're pro-leaks, yeah. Do you feel like the second Trump administration still has its same leakiness?
There's less of the warring factions in the West Wing. They still exist, but not to the degree that was just so remarkable in the first term. But I mean, it's not always leaking, but people just, there's so much happening and it's sometimes so bizarre and people want to talk about it. But I will say it's better executed this time. I mean, some people may see it and say this is chaos of what's happening with the EOs, but it's thoughtful chaos and it's planned out and they're actually executing on what they had planned to do for 2 months.
How do you, obviously your whole day is news and you have to deliver the news. Like, what do you watch when you have like a second to yourself? Like, are you watching the news or do you give yourself like some...
I just watch CNN, honestly, all day long. It's so pathetic.
How are you okay?
I'm an news junkie, like...
Really? You don't have any guilty pleasure TV? You're not like watching like murder docs on Netflix or reality TV or anything?
I'm a huge Real Housewives fan.
Gotcha.
But, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
But that's like, you know, I feel like I can't do that during the week because you really just can't be off your phone for like an hour. You'll miss things.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's like my treat, like maybe like once a month or something.
Oh my God. Well, we appreciate your dedication to the craft. We're all the beneficiaries of it. Thanks so much for being back. It's always so good to see you. Kaitlan Collins, everybody. The Source airs weeknights at 9 on CNN. We'll be right back.